Hello. I've just seen that I think there's one of the buildings in Limerick just off the train station, if my geography serves me correct, that has allegedly been earmarked for iPass people to go in. Excuse me. That probably won't be going ahead now because a fire happened in there. Similar to Coolock as well, the Crown Paints building went up. And while I'm not here glorifying that, or I'm not here telling people what to do or what not to do, I'm also not here condemning that in any way. I'm just here to speak about it and give some observations on that. And ask, what does that tell us about the situation that we're in? If you listen to Simon Harris and RTE, they'll tell you that it just tells us what we've already known about Irish people. That there's scum floating around that just are looking for the first excuse to destroy everything. Okay, that's a factor. There are people who love the idea of destroying things and love the idea of setting fire to things. So it could be that. Or we could also look at the context in which these things are happening. So the bulk of these buildings that are going up in fire, coincidentally, are also earmarked or are being prepared for the international protection people that are men, not even people, men that are coming in here. So we have a common denominator here. And the common denominator is the buildings that are being bought or funded by the government to house foreign men are the ones that are going up in fire. So you can work off of that. So the context of this is that this government is continuing to bring in these men into this country. They're throwing billions at it. They are paying a few landlords, a few property owners around the country, tens of millions of your money to house these people. When the communities come out and say, we don't want this, the government says, well, we don't really care. We're going to plough ahead. They bring in the guards. They bring in the PSNI. They bring in these people in riot gears, and they pepper spray 78-year-olds. They pepper spray 6-year-olds. They beat women. They bust up children. You've seen the photos. And there was even a terminally ill woman who was waiting at a bus stop that got pepper sprayed by riot gear or by riot squads. So that's the response to the response. So the government react with violence when local people say that they don't want what the government are doing in their communities. So buildings go up in fire. I don't know the cause of these. These buildings are long out of service. Could be faulty water. It could be any of these things. Could be climate change, right? Whatever the cause of it is, you're dealing with a reaction to what the government is doing to people. And the government will come out and say that it's nothing to do with that. These people are just criminals and that's where we are. Okay, but why now? Why with these specific buildings? If we are looking at Irish people setting these fires, then you need to ask, why? Because they don't want what's happening, right? And the Irish generally, again, hands up. Of course, there's people that love setting fires to things. We all know someone like that. And if you don't, then you should know more people. But generally, the Irish people are law-abiding people. They would hate to be seen as being an agent of chaos or being a criminal or messing with someone else's property in some way. So the fact that people might be getting so annoyed and might feel so helpless and unheard that they're choosing instead to put their lives on the line, put their freedom on the line, to potentially set fire to these buildings, shows you that what you're dealing with is, and this is across the country now, you're dealing with people who have lost faith in the society and the state so much that they're taking the law into their own hands now. Okay? No, I've no judgment on it. Well, I do, but I'm not even going to give my judgment on it. It's just indicative of the respect that this government are fostering in the people by relentlessly ignoring them and pushing them to the side and beating them and using the guards to go after them. So is this going to continue? Most likely, because the government are relentless in what they're doing. They've come out and said so. They're not even entertaining the idea that you could say no. And the age-old question as well, so for Irish people, if you don't believe that local people have the ability or have the right or should be allowed in any way to decide what happens in their community, you're after adopting the old colonial mindset. And I know that that word has been thrown around and bandied around so much that people are kind of sick of listening to it. It doesn't mean anything, and it tends to come from people who are just looking for stuff from it, harkening back to a colonial past. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just talking about the mindset. And you can see this as well up along the way. So the English found out that they're just going to hemorrhage resources and men and stuff if they're going to continue to fight an open war in Ireland. It was just costing too much, and they were stretched between here, India, and the rest of the empire. They were stretched too much. World wars, they were pulled apart. So what they done is they decided, instead of colonising the land, we'll colonise the mind of the Irish people. And that's what you're looking at now with a lot of people who believe that local protesters should have no say in what goes on in their community. It's all about what the state does and what the government does. That is no different than saying that the Crown has every right to come in here and civilise these dirty rebel Irish people. It's the same mentality. And if you're suffering from that, recognise that in yourself and please go and remedy it for yourself, because that's a bad state of affairs to be looking at things through. But the point on the fires is you're looking at a people who have given up hope, abandoned faith in any state structures that they see as or that claim to be representing these people. So what you're looking at there is a little step closer to anarchy. And that can have both good and bad elements to it, okay? But you'd also have to ask the question then is, if this is the outcome continuously that people are seeing, more and more people deciding to take the law into their own hands, and the government refusing to move away from the trajectory that they've set themselves on, you'd have to wonder if this is the plan that they're after, if this is the outcome that they wish to achieve by doing this, or if I'm sure they've strategized for a load of different potentials, a load of different reactions from Irish people that could come from this. My concern with this, of course, has been that the government will ratchet up ethnic conflict and civil unrest in the country up until the point where things explode, okay, whether real or fabricated. And then they will declare a state of emergency. They will implement emergency powers, which we know they have. They've done it with COVID, and they've done it in the 30s as well. It was written up in the 30s. The government can claim control of the economy, the media, everything. The constitution is suspended up until the point where the state of emergency ends, if it ever does. So what this government can do is they can throw all their eggs in that basket and hope the conflict erupts, because then they can declare a state of emergency, which means they'll suspend elections and they will never have to leave power so long as that state of emergency continues. Okay, that's from their perspective. If I was in their position, where I have some horrible things coming down the line in terms of the COVID and the lawsuits and stuff that are going along with that, if I was looking down the barrel of that, I would absolutely be trying, and if I was trying to retain power forever, I would be doing that, because that's their out. Now, it doesn't mean I'm advocating for it, I'm just thinking. Try and think like they do. The position that they're in, their lives are on the line here. Their freedom is on the line, okay? So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you shut up and they get to retain the power that they have. So I would do that if I was them. Human life means nothing to these people, okay? Human life, your life doesn't mean anything. The fact that people will suffer needlessly or unavoidably, it doesn't mean anything, because if it did, the government would have stopped what they're doing now already. There's enough suffering after occurring. People are stressed and they're losing their minds and they're giving up hope in society, which is not good, okay? So from the other side then, you have people who are sitting there looking at their communities being destroyed and looking at their own people being railroaded by the state and by the government. And they're thinking, do we sit back and wait for the elections? In which case the population of our locality is going to be increased. To what number, we don't know. We're going to have all these foreign men pumped into our society. Is it worth the risk of sitting back and allowing that to happen while waiting for the election and hoping that the right people get in? In which case, just say they do. How long does it take for them to clear up and get these people out, removed, which is what the local communities are wanting around the country? What sort of legal challenges will that government face from people? How long will they be dragged through the courts for? How long? You can see some of the people in direct provisions are there decades. I would imagine these plantation camps or barracks, whatever you want to call them. I see Garoda's calling them barracks, grand plantation barracks. We'll take that. We'll run with that. How long will it take us, should we say, people that are of the perspective that we would like to remove potential dangers from our society? That's what these groups, these camps are seen as, potential hazards, right? Well, all we're doing is our civilian duty, and we're implementing risk assessments, and we're acting according to the risk that we've determined these events to hold. Okay? So, do we sit back and wait, hope that the general election, whenever it's called, or in March, or whatever the case is, that has some silver linings to it? And if we choose that path, then are we signalling that we're welcoming more, or that we will be more complacent in the reception of these groups and stuff going around the country? A lot of people are thinking, and it clearly you can see it. You can see it by the protests and whatever link, if there is any link between the protests and the fires. Let's be realistic here. I don't know. I wasn't there. Who cares? We were just dealing with what has happened. So there's a lot of people that are deciding we don't have the time to be sitting around waiting here. So are they playing into the hands of this government by unleashing a bit of lawlessness? Maybe. But what the point of it is that you're looking at people who have lost all hope. They feel that the only thing they can do right now is to live outside of the law that is being imposed on them and that is being arbitrarily held up to different standards, depending on the crime, depending on the people, depending on the race. Okay? So Irish people, whether you want to say they're falling into the trap of acting in a lawless manner, or whether they have abandoned all hope of justice prevailing in this country at the moment, whatever way you want to look at it, these are tyrannical times. You're dealing with a government that has no respect for you, doesn't care about you, and does not care if you're killed. Let's be realistic here. Let's be adults here. We're risk assessing. What are the risks involved in these things? And what you're looking at ultimately is people who have nothing left to lose, or people that feel like they have nothing left to lose. And that the people that are hired to do the jobs of upholding the law, upholding justice, they're gone AWOL. They're gone the other way. They're now a rogue element. So people are taking things into their own hands. And again, there's a positive and a negative. And it's just something to think about. It's something to think about. I would hope that people don't, or they refuse the reaction, or refuse the call to react to what they're seeing of people saying, you know what, no, done, get rid of this, and call them scum, and call them thugs, call them whatever you want, criminals. I would hope that people would be a little bit more savvy and be able to go, you know what, there's more to this story here than just deciding, I feel better now because I can call them scum. And because the government called them scum, and I do too, the government are on my side and I'm on their side, and they look after me when things get rough. They won't. Okay? They won't. The only hope that you have is by siding up with people in your community, because it's going to get dark. Like, it's already incredibly dark times when you're looking at a group of people that have decided we've no faith in the system anymore.